Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the Full10Yard NFL podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Full10Yards NFL podcast. I am your host, Sam Moores, and this is our Week 17 preview, isn't it? Really, it's our penultimate one of the year before we get into the playoffs, and it's crunch time because we head into Week 17 with multiple clinching scenarios and lots of tasty playoff implicating matchups too. And joining me to break down the largest Sunday slate of the season so far, I know it will be because there's two games on Saturday next week. Talking through the games you can see on Sky this week, as well as the Saturday primetime game before we pick our winners in the rest of the games, is the Full10Yards founder, Tim. How are you doing, Tim?
Yeah, very well. Yeah, I'm just digesting the second of my third turkeys that I'll be having this week. Been a fun Christmas off. I'm not really a New Year celebrator, so I can't say I'm looking forward to the New Year. It's just another day. So, but yeah, the one thing I am ready for is I'm ready for playoff football. So not to wish the NFL season away a bit quicker, but yeah, I'm ready for January football now. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I was spending New Year's Eve watching the NFL, mate. So I'm not really. Again, I do love a drink. Don't get me wrong, especially being at uni and stuff. But yeah, when there's a Sunday slate on, I'm picking that over anything else, I think. So
yeah. It's the only way to bring in the new year, watching NFL football.
Exactly. Right, before we get on to Sunday, we'll start with Thursday night, the last Thursday night football of the season. It was a good one as well because the Browns sealed their playoff spot with a big win over the Jets. 3 first-quarter touchdowns, including a Ronnie Hickman pick six, helped them on their way in the game they controlled from literally start to finish. I think David Njoku has probably already lost me in my fantasy matchup after one game. With his performance last night, he had 134 yards on 6 grabs. And Joe Flacco looked good again too, getting revenge over the Jets. Obviously, he refused to sign him after the Aaron Rodgers injury. He became the first QB to throw for over 300 yards against this defense all year, and he had 3 touchdowns on the day too. And then now, obviously the Browns now head to Cincinnati next week to try and end the Bengals playoff push as well. So it's a great time to be a Browns fan for all the Full10Yards Browns fans they've got, because we've got quite a few of them as well. And as for the Jets, well, it's been a disaster year throughout, and I really do wonder what Woody Johnson thinks now. Will we keep the regime together or not next year? It's been reported that he wants to, but last night, especially right at the start of the game, it just looked like the Jets were, the same old Jets really, and that's not what they want going into next year of Aaron Rodgers. So, what are your thoughts on this game, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, for the last Thursday night football of the year, it kind of left with a bang, didn't it? I had it down as a boring, lackluster kind of offense is going to struggle, so much so that one of my best bets on the pod was unders on the total. So that went down the toilet. Nothing like a commentator's curse or a Tim curse to kind of put that one right. So Browns fans, you're very, very welcome. But yeah, I mean, this one, it just seemed highlight after highlight. There's so many, the players making good plays. Jermaine Johnson's pick six, Jerome Ford's second rushing touchdown, the effort to get in there. And yeah, the highlight for me has to be Joe Flacco just carving up that Jets defense, who, have barely allowed a 200-yard passer in a game for the whole season, whereas Joe Flacco just carved it up in the first half and pretty much I think he nearly had 300 yards going into the half. So and Njoku just doing what he's been doing over the last month, just absolutely tearing up. And I was, again, part of the reason I was worried about this game from a highlight or a fantasy standpoint was no Amari Cooper, who had a career day last week, but doesn't seem to matter. Joe Flacco, there's just lightning in a bottle there. They've now effectively locked up the 5th seed, it looks like, and they'll play the winner of the AFC South, and I think they'll be the favourites, whoever that may be. And they're going to be a team that no one wants to play because it's, as I say, it's an offense that's churning without, household names at wide receiver when Amari Cooper's out, but you've got Elijah Moore, you've got David Njoku, obviously again another 100-yard game for him. So Cleveland, I think it's a Christmas present for them. I don't think they necessarily thought once Watson kind of has been in and out of the lineup. Nick Chubb obviously went down early in the season. I don't think that the Browns fans would have thought they'd be in this position. So it's a free hit for them, which also makes them extra dangerous in that respect.
Yeah, they are really heading into playoffs with some form, and they've beaten, I think, 2 or 3 of those AFC South contenders as well down the stretch too. So yeah, they've certainly got some film to judge that game off as well. Right, we'll get on to Saturday night where the Lions face the Cowboys, and with there being no Monday Night Football game because of the college football playoffs happening on Monday, ESPN have got one hell of a primetime game on Saturday instead. With the Lions heading to Dallas, the Lions 11-4, the Cowboys are 10-5. And as of last week, this is another game with two teams that have a load of wins, but no one really trusts them. It's the same theme again. Obviously, the Lions have just clinched their first division title in 30 years and their first ever NFC North title. And they're still in play for the 1 seed as well. But their signature win is that season opener against Kansas City. And I know the Cowboys, in my opinion, and I'm sure you'll agree, Tim, are a top 3 team in the league. They're pretty much set in stone to be playing away from home this year in the playoffs again, which is a concern having those 5 games on the road. They're at home tomorrow though, and I'm sure you'll be wanting to shut a lot of people up, won't they, Tim?
Yeah, well, and that just goes back to your point about trusting the Cowboys. I mean, I don't think as a Cowboys fan, I don't think I've trusted them ever since I started supporting them. So nothing's ever new there. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird game to break down in this one. I think obviously it's one of the higher totals from a betting perspective. So we're kind of expecting points, and that kind of makes sense when you've got obviously Detroit's defense, but pass defense isn't that great. And obviously Dak can light it up with CD Lamb, who is just second to Tyreek Hill in receiving yards. But yeah, I kind of wrote it down in my notes here. It was one of those dead rubbers, but it's not really a dead rubber because both teams are playoff bound. Detroit obviously first NFC North title for what seems like an eternity. Dallas locked into the 5 seed pretty much, but I think it's one of those games where especially the offenses would just want to kind of keep ticking over, making sure that they're executing, making sure that their execution's clean, no flags. But yeah, I mean, I was looking also some stats in this one. Dallas actually won the last 5 against Detroit, and Detroit haven't had a win over Dallas for over 10 years. But looking kind of obviously more recent term, Dallas this season at home record is quite astounding. Obviously, 7-0, they've always scored at least 30. So again, that kind of points to it will be a higher scoring game because Detroit as well, they're kind of machine running a little bit. Jameer Gibbs has kind of come to the fore a little bit, 5 touchdowns in his last couple of games. But yeah, I mean, it just speaks to Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, no surprise, he's at the top of he's one of the favourites for Coach of the Year. Yeah, it should be a fun game. I think Detroit fans, although first and foremost, would just be happy that they're going to have a home playoff game. And again, yeah, I think it's just one of those games where both teams would like to see kind of where they're at because they're kind of, Dallas obviously the better team and they've got the more complete team in terms of defense and they can win through that as well. But Detroit especially was like, okay, we're going away to one of the best teams in the league. See where there's the bar. Can we surpass that? And then for Dallas, they're on a bit of a pretty disappointing run. Pollard especially, he's been disappointing this season. But yeah, I think Dallas will want to kind of get back on track because they've not had the best time of it over the last couple of weeks. Obviously losses to Miami last week, lost to Buffalo the week before where they got destroyed. So yeah, there's enough to play for without it being too meaningful for both teams, but both teams obviously still want to come out of the win and kind of start to build that momentum for going into January.
Well, that's the thing as well. I mean, the matchup I'm fascinated to see in this one is the Lions' offense going up against that Cowboys' defense because they've scored loads of points. The fifth and points per game have been great all year. Obviously, Dallas' defense has been one of the best in the league all season too, but it hasn't come up big in the past 2 games, obviously against playoff opponents as well. But obviously, again, as you mentioned, the same old story. Amazing, in Jerry World at AT&T Stadium, disappointing away from home. It's not going to be straightforward, this one, shutting down the Lions' offense going into the playoffs would certainly be a statement, though, wouldn't it, Tim? Because again, they're so hard to stop.
Yeah, it's a bit annoying, really, because as I say we've had the chance at the 2 and the 1 seed. To be quite honest, those 2 losses to Miami and Buffalo have kind of killed us. Because even if we were the 2 seed, I think as a Dallas fan, I'd be quite confident that no matter who came into Dallas, that we'd A, be favourites, but B, trust is obviously is a hard word for me, but I'd expect them to get the job done. And then, if you go to Levi Stadium, if the San Francisco 49ers obviously gets the championship game, then it's any given Sunday. And I'm sure they'll wheel out all the old playoff games between Dallas and San Francisco. But yeah, being the fifth seed, I know you'll probably get the NFC South champions, and that won't necessarily be an easy one. We seem to play Tampa Bay in the playoffs as well. I think it's probably be the third or fourth, third time in a couple of years. But yeah, it's a big difference, I think, especially for Dallas from having a 5 seed when they could have had maybe the 2 or the 1. So that's a bit annoying. But we've certainly got the units on both sides of the ball to be able to get a win away from home, because that's how you need to be built to be able to win away from home. So we'll see how it kind of plays out.
Awesome. And then as for the sort of other matchup in this game, to have a shot of winning this game, the Lions have to be better on defense to win this one, because they've let up a lot of points, which again probably just screams shootout, as you mentioned earlier, Tim. And that's why it's so difficult to pick this game, because I'm just like, if it's going to be a shootout, then maybe the Lions can just pip them, but I'd probably trust the Cowboys defense a bit more, well, a lot more to be fair, compared to the Lions defense. And then I probably, from what I've seen this year, I trust Dak Prescott a bit more. It's been, for me, I think he's been his best year, certainly since early time, 2016-17 time. I've been really impressed. That drive in the fourth quarter against Miami last week was ace, and it's just a shame that they've bit too much time on the clock. And obviously there are other targets stepping up too, as well as CeeDee Lamb. I think it'll be a similar game to last week, actually, because this game is going to be on Dak again, because the Cowboys can't really run the ball. Detroit are 4th against the run, and they showed last week against Miami's 5th ranked run defense. And I think Dak will thrive in that situation, especially with it being at home as well. So give me the Cowboys to win big.
I think the Cowboys will win by a touchdown or so. I think the Lions got 5.5 or something like that. But I mean, I don't know what Dak and I don't like Mike McCarthy. I'm not his biggest fan at all. But whatever conversations they've had, it seems to be working, because he's kind of just opened it up, and Dak seems to be total ease and total control of the offense. And just for on how I see the Lions potentially winning this game, I think they'll probably just want to tune into and look at the all-22 against the Buffalo game, because they've got someone like Jahmyr Gibbs who can use like Buffalo used James Cook. And I was some of the Jahmyr Gibbs stuff that I looked at, his long reception of the season, only 24 yards. I would have expected to be a bit more than that, but his yards per reception is 6.2. So I know obviously he's come to the fore a little bit over the last couple of weeks, and with all his touchdowns and stuff. But so I assume, and again, they've got a really good offensive line, so it's an interesting battle, the Detroit O-line against the Dallas D-line. So I mean, if Detroit can run the ball, I think that will set them up well, and it will obviously open up play action. And like I say, it should be a fun game to watch at least.
Awesome. Right, we'll get on to Sunday now. The first game, the featured game with a very large early window, is the showdown for the AFC number 1 seed, where the 11-4 Dolphins head to Baltimore to play the 12-3 Ravens, after both teams won narrative-changing games over Christmas. With a win, the Ravens will not only clinch the AFC North title for the first time in a while, but also home field advantage too, and obviously the only bye in the playoffs that comes with that. A Dolphins win will see them crowned AFC East winners for the first time since 2008, and see them leapfrog Baltimore to the top spot ahead of their home game against Buffalo next week. This game, I think, of any game in the entire season, I think this is the most meaningful game of the season yet. And obviously having it in the early window is a treat for us in the UK, isn't it, Tim?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it was a joy to watch the Baltimore Ravens and the 49ers, not so long ago. And I'm not a defensive guy, but Kyle Hamilton, he impressed me. He's a name, obviously a household name. Everyone obviously knows everything about him, but it was watching him play last week was an absolute joy. So it'd be interesting to see obviously how Baltimore attack or try and defend Tyreek Hill. But this Baltimore Ravens defense is actually quite a joy to watch if that's such a thing. You can watch watch that. But no Jalen Waddle obviously for Miami as well. So I expect Baltimore to kind of handle business quite comfortably here. Say if you can go in and give San Francisco a hiding in their backyard, I'm not necessarily saying that the Dolphins will be a lot easier or they should take them any less seriously, because they won't. But I think the Baltimore Ravens are just dialed in at the moment. They've got the momentum, they've got the performances. They've not obviously got too many injuries to worry about so much, and they're just playing football and they're having fun. And Lamar Jackson, favourite for MVP as it currently stands. You know, some people will say that Christian McCaffrey maybe deserves it, but we know it's a quarterback league, and you know of all the quarterbacks in the league, Lamar Jackson, especially after that performance against San Francisco, kind of deserves it because he's just elevating the players in that offense because they're not household names, they're not your Jerry Rices or your Calvin Johnsons, all that kind of stuff. It's Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, and a bit of a running game as well. So he's elevating, which is what the MVP is all about, elevating the guys around him, elevating that offense, and he's absolutely dialed in, and he's just hitting everyone between the numbers or hitting them where it needs to be, and the offense is also is just clicking as well. So yeah, I expect Baltimore to win this fairly comfortably. But Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins, they've had a fantastic season. Obviously, close to clinching the AFC East, which would have been the goal at the start of the season, considering how difficult that division is. So should be a fun one. But yeah, I think Baltimore should have more than enough in hand to beat the Dolphins there.
Yeah, I think we're probably about to see both teams face their toughest test yet, actually, because the way the Niners just sat out from start to finish, I think even the Ravens have been quite chuffed for how they looked in that game. So obviously, I don't think that's going to happen again. 5 turnovers and it's 4 in pretty quick succession. I don't think that's going to happen in this game as well. So I think we're going to see Baltimore tested throughout the game in this one. Obviously, it's the number one offense versus the number one defense in the league too. So there's always that to look out for as well. Miami number one offense has been great all year. I personally think Tyreek Hill should be MVP because again, as you mentioned about elevating players, he's elevated to a level where he's leading a lot of stats in the NFL right now. And obviously the going into Baltimore for Miami is no easy feat. We're about to see how physical this offense can be. And, going up against a really, really fierce Ravens defense, which I think a lot of people have as a big criticism over Miami. It's you're quite flashy, especially at home. How can you win in a cold weather stadium like Baltimore against a very physical team? So we're going to see that firsthand in this game. We saw flashes of that against the Cowboys, especially at the end of the game. And I think the key to victory here is establishing the run, and they may need to as well, obviously, because they're missing Jalen Waddle. As for the Ravens, their offense is the most balanced I think it's ever been. But the Dolphins are very, very good against the run. So this is going to be a Lamar, can you win MVP kind of game. And that may be about Zay Flowers as well because he hasn't practiced this week with a calf injury. So if he's missing, we'll see how. Obviously, no Mark Andrews in there as well. We'll see how he copes. So last week, I've not really ready to crown Lamar MVP yet. Because I don't think they won that game because of him. They won it because the defense caused 5 turnovers.
Yeah, of course.
But,
yeah.
But and also one of his 2 touchdowns was short field. It's from the 20-yard line. So, but he looked very good. I'm a huge fan. I'm excited to see him against the rising Dolphins defense, which obviously you witnessed on Christmas Eve as a Cowboys fan, Tim. They've been great the last couple of weeks. They're second in the sacks per game now behind Baltimore. And even without Jalen Phillips, obviously one of their pass rushers they've lost. Vic Fangio's defense is really starting to make a statement now, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I say, you probably hit the nail on the head there. I think how Lamar Jackson performs maybe in this game against Miami is probably a bit more telling than how they maybe. I mean, it was good in the way that they didn't let the San Francisco 49ers back in the game with all the weapons that they've got because of that defense. But yeah, maybe it will be on Lamar's shoulders too, especially if Zay Flowers isn't going. It might be just a very low score. It might be a very low scoring game if that's the case, and both teams struggle to move the ball because of the defense or lack of options on offense. So yeah, I'd probably agree with you there.
Awesome. When these two teams met last year, the Dolphins came out on top with Tua throwing 6 touchdowns, 4 in the fourth quarter to come back from 3 scores down and win. But both are very different teams since then. Both are better teams now, especially the Ravens defense, who've had quite some turnaround this year compared to what they were at the start of last year. They now lead the league in points per game allowed, sacks per game, and turnovers per game too. And it's going to be a tough ask for Miami to repeat that 6 touchdown performance again. But I'm going to be bold. I think they do win it. I think they drew a big win on the road. They've beaten the Ravens the last 2 years, and I think Mike McDaniel has probably learned a lot from these games down the stretch against the likes of the Cowboys and the Eagles and the Chiefs. They got their big game win last week. They got it done. They were the better team in the fourth quarter, and just for a lot of the second half of the game. And they'll take what they learned in that game into this one, and they'll win their first AFC East title in 15 years.
Yeah, was it with the Cowboys when they beat the Cowboys last week? Was that the first team they beat with a winning record, or am I
Yes, it
imagining
was.
that? Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah. So yeah.
We'll see how they fare in the
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
this
Yeah,
one.
it's a fascinating game, but this is what late December, early January games are all about. It's money's on the line. Pick a lane, who you're going for, and leave it all out on the field, and then whatever. We'll see how the ball lands. So, to be fun.
Awesome. Now let's go pick our winners in the rest of the 6 p.m. slate, which is absolutely massive. There's loads of games in the 6 p.m. slate and only 3 in the late window, which I don't get. But either way, we'll get into it, and we'll start with Buffalo, who are looking to win their 4th straight game against the Patriots, who obviously beat the Bills in week 17. In week 7, they come to town after their win against the Broncos last week. It's a must-win game for the Bills because they need to stay alive in the race for the AFC East title. If they win this, and if Miami lose to Baltimore, then they will have a Week 18 battle for the division and probably the 2 seed as well, presumably on Sunday Night Football if Miami were to lose that game. New England will be tough opposition again, though. Obviously, they beat them earlier in the year. They've been great on defense lately, and on Sunday Night Football last week, their offense was the best it has been all season. Bailey Zappi was PFF's second highest graded quarterback on Sunday, which is just mental.
This year is just drunk, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. And with the Patriots as well, they've been terrible all year. But right after it was reported that they are set to part ways with Belichick. They've won 2 of their last 3, and they're playing their best football right now, which is what makes this game so interesting. I'm still going to pick the Bills to win, but give me the Patriots to cover the spread because it's huge.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I know obviously Belichick is quite meticulous in obviously how he plans. Obviously, I know Buffalo very well, but I feel like Buffalo have kind of not necessarily reinvented themselves, but ever since Joe Brady's taken over, it's been a bit of a weird. I don't really know what you're going to get with Buffalo. Obviously, it's always been kind of pummel Diggs, pummel the tight end, but last couple of weeks it's either been James Cook's been a focal point. The defense has kind of stepped on and made a few plays. We've not heard anything out of Diggs at all. And then even just with performances against teams, they squeak by the Chargers, who can't do anything, and then they absolutely smash the Cowboys, who are third favourites. But obviously, they've won 3 straight out of the bye. Looking at the stats, one of the best teams in the league on third down percentage conversion, and best team in red zone touchdown percentage conversion as well. So they're still scoring points. They may be doing it in a different way, but I do kind of get a sense with Buffalo that they kind of feel a bit confused because they don't really know what their identity is or what they're going to do from week. It's not necessarily all Josh Allen, either with his legs or with his arm to Stephon Diggs. But we'll be. It's obviously New England always going to be a difficult test, especially with it being a divisional game. But yeah, Buffalo. I think you're probably right. Buffalo to win, but New England's cover. I think it'll probably be a low scorer.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, we'll go over to the NFC now. We're fresh on their 29-10 win over the Colts to stay alive in the playoff race. The Falcons now head to Chicago, who are playing some great football at the minute. I know I thought I'd say that at the start of the season. The Bears have won 3 of the last 4 and are currently 6-9 after starting the year 2-7. Justin Fields was excellent again last week, and I think for him this is a great chance to show Atlanta, who obviously are looking for a new QB next year, what he's got. So I think that's a great fit there. Although he may be about Cole Kmet in this game because he's not practiced this week with a knee injury. Both of these teams are built around their run game. They're the 2 teams that ran the ball the most last year, but one is executing that way better than the other right now. So I'm going to pick the Bears to win this one. They're favourites in this one as well. And it means the Falcons obviously will be eliminated and probably Arthur Smith fired. If not, his seat is very, very warm going into the final game of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Falcons are just another team. You don't really know what you kind of get. It's either a stuttering old engine or it's just something. The game plan gets executed. But they handled the Colts easily last week. Scoring 29 points, and I think it says it all when you see that they've never scored 30 in a game this season. And then Arthur Smith, I really recall the Panthers game where he just doesn't. I know Bijan fumbled, but I don't know. It feels like he needs to have too much control over it rather than just letting the players play and having a plan to kind of bring the best out of those. But it's quite hard to run on the Falcons, which is obviously what the Bears want to do with Fields and their plethora of running backs as well. So it'd be interesting to kind of see what the Bears do from a running perspective and how much success they get out of that. I'll probably take Atlanta to win it. I know the Bears have won, I think, 4 out of the last 6. They've managed to drag themselves to 6 wins, but I think Atlanta. The fact that Atlanta need this, and the fact I think Chicago. not necessarily that they don't really care, because I've always said on the betting podcast that they always tend to, even if they're 10, 14 points up, they always tend to find a way to either let the teams back in or win, and that's been kind of plaguing them over the last year or so. So I'll probably take Atlanta to win, and so probably give me the points. But yeah, I'm not, again, back in Atlanta, you're not going to get overly rich doing that, because again, yeah, and it's not good for the health either, because it doesn't, some things just don't make sense to make sense in that team.
Yeah, and if you ever want to a laugh on a Sunday, just follow the podcast that's obviously affiliated with Full10Yards, Falcons UK podcast. It's just so funny watching them struggle every Sunday. Just watching them struggle every Sunday, because it's just up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite things to do when I'm logging to the account. Anyway,
Yeah.
we'll go over to the AFC South now, where the Texans welcome the Titans, and after a drop of form from the Jaguars, the Titans are searching for the AFC South title in D'Amico Ryan's first year as head coach. They close out the year with 2 division games, starting with the visit of the Titans. And the Texans won the reverse fixture 2 weeks ago in Tennessee before losing to Cleveland last week, both with Case Keenum at quarterback. But they may get star rookie QB C.J. Stroud back in this one after missing those games over concussion. He's been limited in practice this week, and he has clear concussion protocol, so it does sound like he's going to play. I think Houston will win this regardless of whether he did play or not. But I mean, I wouldn't want to bet on it because it's a division game and all that. Again, I think I'm hoping the Texans are the team that comes out of the AFC South, because I think that they're by far the most interesting team of the 3 possible winners. And obviously, one of them is going to get a home game. I hope it's the Texans, because I look forward to seeing them in the playoffs. But yeah, I'm going to go with that trend. I'm going to go pick them to win this game.
Yeah, it's fascinating, the AFC South, isn't it, really? Like I say, I think Houston, of the AFC South teams, I think Houston would give it the best go, which if you would have said that at the start of the season, with the seemingly how much disarray that the team were in, and no one gave D'Amico Ryans any chance of staying past Christmas, and all the rest of it as well. But yeah, big game for Houston. Stroud to Collins should be something that the commentators say quite a lot. The interesting thing about this game, the away teams won the last 6 in this matchup. So that was quite interesting. And Titans have only won away once this season as well. So it's kind of contradictory stacks there. But Vrabel obviously coaches his team well. The Titans don't give you anything easy, so they'll have to earn it. But I think the star quality of Stroud, and he probably just has enough on offense in terms of Noah Brown. He's come up big when he's been healthy on the pitch, and obviously Nico Collins will be back, and Devin Singletary's managed to magic some production out of the backfield. And like I say, yeah, last time, obviously, this was Case Keenum against the Titans as well. So, obviously, huge upgrade at quarterback in that respect. So, yeah, I fully expect Houston to win. And obviously, Houston at Indianapolis next week as well. I know we'll come on to Indy shortly, but that could potentially be a division game.
Yeah, I think it's between that game and Miami Buffalo for the 2 games that'll be on Sunday Night Football. I think if one of those will close the year, it's just however the games turn out this weekend. You mentioned the Colts, obviously onto another fun one in the AFC between the 7-8 Raiders, who stayed alive with their shock Christmas Day win against the Chiefs, and the 8-7 Colts, who currently occupy the 7th seed. So we could get both AFC South teams in it the way it's going, but I think is still very much to play for. The Raiders are the most informed team on the outside looking in, and the Colts lost by 4 scores last week. So there's 2 teams coming into this on with very different moods. And I think, as much as I love what the Raiders have shown under Antonio Pierce, who I think should probably be given the job permanently, it's a mistake they made. They probably should have given Rich Bisaccia the job permanently after they snuck into playoffs a couple of years ago, after John Green was dismissed. As much as I love what the Raiders have done recently, I love their defense as well. I think Shane Steichen and the Colts probably just get the job done here. And it's at home as well. It's in the Indy, so I think it's probably the safer pick. But this one will be fun. So I have no idea how it's going to go after last week.
Yeah, I still get over the Raiders winning in our area. That's just nuts. And I want whether Antonio Pierce drinks or gives to his fans. I want some of that as well, because my life will skyrocket up into the stratosphere. But he certainly invigorated the team and got them to obviously 7-8 despite having Aidan O'Connell at quarterback, and backup running backs, barely getting the ball to Devontae Adams in games as well. So God knows how they are where they are. But that Indy loss last week against Falcons was a real kick in the nuts for them, and they could have been in pole position for the postseason. But considering the circumstances, obviously Minshew at quarterback, obviously without and Anthony Richardson going down, Jonathan Taylor going down for a little while, to be the current 7 seed. A lot of kudos to Shane Steichen, and I think it's if they win, it's 70% playoff probability, 25 of loss. So it's obviously currently a coin flip. There's a few teams like that this weekend, but I'm very surprised that Indy have still been able to kind of keep it going, because sometimes when you have a backup quarterback come in, they'll be okay for a couple of games, maybe get the odd win or here, but it's so hard to elongate out the performances and get the wins that they have, regardless obviously of last week's performance. But yeah, the Colts are pretty much a middle of the road team. They'll lose against the good teams but beat the bad ones. So I think Las Vegas are kind of in that kind of bucket with them. So it'd be interesting to see kind of how that battles out. I think it'd be a field goal game. But yeah, I think with Indianapolis at home, we'll I think they'll just be able to throw the ball a bit more and have bigger plays and get into the red zone a bit more. So yeah, I'll take Indy.
Awesome. Right, one of the games that I'm most looking forward to seeing this week is this Panthers-Jags game. And again, it's another one where I have absolutely no idea how it goes. Because, that's the thing really. The Jags have lost 4 straight, but due to division tiebreakers, if they win this one, and again, if the Texans and the Colts lose, they can actually clinch the division which is just some mental scenario here. But I'm not so confident they do that, because I don't know if they're going to win this game or not, because the Panthers have actually been tricky to beat lately. The last couple of weeks, Bryce Young has been really good. Actually, he's been one of the best QBs in the league. The last couple of weeks, we look at the numbers. And then obviously the big elephant in the room is Trevor Lawrence's health. Obviously, he got another injury last week, an ACL sprain in his throwing shoulder. Obviously, I think he came back from the concussion prematurely as well. I think there's something like a 20% chance that a QB will come back from concussion and play the next week. And he played. He looked awful from the very start. So that's quite the whole tour rule and everything. That's quite interesting how he came back and had some horrible decisions. Maybe that's something there. And obviously he's still battling that knee injury he suffered on a Monday night game ages ago as well. It's really interesting with the Jags in a minute. So I'm going to go for Carolina to win this, because they've sort of been revitalised under Chris Tabor, their interim head coach. The offense looked a lot better recently. Bryce Young, he's had 2 winning drives to win the games. It's just, unfortunately, they run out of time against the Packers. It could have been very, very different. So he could have 2 fourth quarter winning drives back to back. I think they're sort of starting to find a groove now. And even if obviously they're not tanking or anything, it's down their own pick. So yeah, give me Carolina to win this, because obviously we don't know who's going to be QB for the Jags either. It's not been confirmed whether Lawrence is playing or not, and they're also injured across their roster, especially on offense as well. So yeah, give me Carolina to upset here.
Yeah. I mean, huge game this one. Like I say, all kind of centers around Trevor Lawrence's availability, doesn't it? But let's say with the injuries, obviously, it just feels like he's regressed a little bit since the last year, and he's kind of putting up similar numbers, but it just feels from a performance perspective that he's not quite hitting the same levels as last year. But yeah, you're exactly right. I think obviously, losing 4 straight, the wheels are coming off Jacksonville Jaguars. It's kind of like Daniel Jones's run where he got eaten by the turf monster. It's just how long you can stumble before you actually fall down. I think that kind of sums up the Jacksonville Jaguars quite well. But it all seems to have kind of coincided with the missing Christian Kirk. Obviously, Zay Jones has been in and out of the team. He's been more out than in, but they've obviously not really lost him or missed him as much. But since Christian Kirk kind of went down, they kind of don't really know what to do. And ETN kind of feels like he's running in treacle as well. So, and as you say, the division record that they have at 4-1 currently as it stands is kind of keep giving them all the bonuses at the moment. But yeah, Carolina certainly do have a chance to win this one, even though they are away. As you say, signs of improvement or shoots of improvement from Bryce over the last game or so. So it's just a case of there's not really, again, outside of Bryce, there's not really a lot of supporting cast, because Thielen's not really, apart from last week where he had a decent yardage return. It's been quite difficult on offense, and because they've not got the stars with the ability to get more or maximize what they can do on offense. No, Chuba Hubbard's been running hard, but yeah, certainly Jacksonville are there for the taking for Carolina. So it could be for me a coin flip game. So what was the was it 6.5 for Jacksonville? I'd probably if you can maybe juice that up to 7 points on an adjusted price, give me a touchdown, because I think they'll be within a touchdown, because Jacksonville are just, I don't know. Maybe they need to go and steal and abduct Antonio Pierce. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, there we are. And then we'll go back over to the NFC now, where Sean McVay's Rams are looking to win their 6th game in 7 since their bye week and march one step closer towards a return to the postseason. They head to MetLife Stadium to face the Giants, who just went toe-to-toe with the Eagles in Philadelphia. Get through this one with a win and touch with no injuries, and that's the 6th seed pretty much wrapped up for them before heading to San Francisco next week. They clinched the playoffs with a win and a Seattle loss, and I think they get that win. Their offense has been exceptional, especially since getting Kyron Williams back. It's so balanced as well. And I think it'll be too much for a Giants defense. I actually quite like. They've been a bit frisky all year, but I think they've just got too many weapons for the Giants defense to deal with. But we'll see how they've got quite a pass rush. So we'll see how they against the Rams offensive line, how they fare. But for me, I think the Rams are just too good to lose this one.
Yeah, I think the Rams have got themselves and let's say, appreciate this is a shout out to Sean McVay. He's got that offense into a kind of pick your poison. It's like, if we can't run it, we've got the ability to pass it. And for Matthew Stafford in the offseason, there were a few questions around whether or not he'll get back to prime Matthew Stafford, and murmurs around does he still want to play, retirement, because obviously he's got with his wife, wanted to obviously spend time with them. But the heart and desire that Stafford's shown, and what Sean McVay kind of infuses into that offense, when you've got people like Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, obviously an inspired draft choice, Kyron Williams as well as outperformed expectations, and then obviously the defense. A lot was made about all the pieces that left, and Jalen Ramsey and
they called it the no-name defense, and Aaron Donald.
Yeah,
they've sort of played really well. That's the thing.
Yeah. But as a unit, they're a really good unit, which is why Sean McVay's done he won't get any, if any, coach of the year kind of votes, but to get that team from where he was, where it was, or where it was perceived to be, and if you can get them to the playoffs, the 88% playoff percentage probability if they beat the Giants here, so they've done exceptionally well, and it's just fun. It's fun to watch teams like the Rams this season with all those players and making plays. And they will have too much for the Giants, because the Giants are just in purgatory and they're just rolling along. And I think they just want the season to end, to be quite honest. And they're just they'll have just as many question marks going into next season as they did this season, and nothing will kind of ever change. So it's like death taxes, and no one knows what's going on with the New York Giants. So. Tyrod Taylor's obviously back for the Giants as well, but I don't think that necessarily makes any difference to anything. To be quite honest, either whether they win or not, the amount of people that watch the game, or who cares. So, there we go.
That's the thing, isn't it? Right, we'll stick in the NFC. We'll go to Philly now. Stick in the NFC East. And speaking of the NFC East, the Eagles welcome the Cardinals, knowing that if Dallas lose to Detroit on Saturday night, they can secure the NFC East title with a victory here. They've still got a shot at the 1 seed too, after San Francisco's lost to Baltimore on Monday Night Football. But it's weird because even though they've got all these scenarios, I still don't trust them one bit. If their start is disrupted as well, they struggle. If they can't get out to a lead early, and that's when they really struggle. And a lot of time they've lost. That's how those 4 losses have happened. They've struggled at the start, and then in the second half they're a really bad team. So that's what's happened there. So I'm interested to see what happens and what Jonathan Gannon throws at this offense on his return to Philadelphia. Of course, it's in Philly, so I'm picking them. Especially if Kyler Murray doesn't play, because he's missed his practice this week with illness. So we'll see if he practices today or not. But he's missed the last 2 days of practice. But if he does play, I think it might be closer than many people think, because I just don't trust Philly. And I think the Cardinals, they've actually played pretty well on defense comparing to the talent they have. And obviously Jonathan Gannon knows the players and the Eagles' offense and everything. So I think it'll be interesting. But it's in Philadelphia, so give me them to win this game.
Yeah. I think Philadelphia will win the game, but it's just a shame really, because Arizona they have played well on defense, but you just wish that they had a few more players on offense, or someone, because Kyler's struggled since he's come back. Let's not make no bones about it. But he's not got anyone really to throw to. Marquise Brown's been injured and on the field, but not doing
Yeah, he's been
anything.
put on IR today, so
He's
he's
an IR,
definitely
yeah. But so like I say, when you've got your main weapon being Trey McBride, things aren't necessarily going to go very well. I mean, as well as Trey McBride's played this season, and obviously he's been able to come out of the shadow because Zach Ertz obviously left the team and whatnot. But it's just if you're not going to put someone like Kyler in a position to win because you've not got any weapons around them, you're not. There's only so much of a ceiling that team can have. So whether or not Kyler plays or not, I just don't think Arizona, despite the vulnerabilities on Philadelphia's defense, I just don't. You can't keep slinging it. Imagine if Joe Flacco was on the Falcons and on the Cardinals and was just slinging it. Then I think that it would be a really fun game to watch. But I think with Kyler banged up or not, or whoever comes in, I just can't. There's not enough on there on offense for me to be able to exploit Philadelphia's deficiencies on defense, and we know what the offense is all about. And again, they probably only need to score 17 to 20 to be able to win the game. So I think Philadelphia will be counting their lucky stars that someone like Arizona is coming to Lincoln Financial. But I can't see anything other than a Philly win here.
right. And then we'll go over to the NFC South, and this game is mega because the Bucks are looking to win their third straight title on Sunday when they welcome their fiercest contender for that title, the Saints, to Tampa Bay. It's simple: win this game and they're in the playoffs as division winners in the 4 seed as well. Lose it, and it's weird because there'll be now 3 teams at 8-8 potentially, depending on whether the Falcons win or not. All will be 3-2 in the division, and they're heading into. They all play each other next week as well, so they're heading into another 2 division games. So that title will be up for the grabs. Certainly next week, if the Saints win this one, that is, we could get very tasty. Since their bye week, though, the Saints have been a more consistent team because they struggled in the red zone. That was a real issue for them. They put up all the yards offensively and just couldn't get points together. They've done well at reaching the end zone now, but even though they've been a better offense, they're still 2-3 in that period. I just don't trust them because they're just a different team each week. The Bucks, they're looking for their 5th win in a row. They're hitting form at the right time. Baker Mayfield's playing great football. He's been protected well, which is another thing as well. If you can protect Baker Mayfield, he can give you good football. I think obviously Tampa Bay need this to still. I don't think they probably want it to go to the final game of the season and get so complicated. So yeah, give me the Bucks to win this one.
Yeah, I think the Bucks will win as well. Like I say, New Orleans just the incontinuity of who's been in the team with injuries and out of the team, and obviously I think also they kind of shoot themselves in the foot a little bit in terms of incontinuity on how they want to approach games or even drive by drive, because you've got obviously Derek Carr, quarterback, who's not obviously been pulling up trees, but when you've got Taysom Hill, who they'd like to scream and shout from the rooftops about, as he can do absolutely everything. But when you've got so many different variables in the game already, when you get to certain points, down and distances, or certain field positions, if you don't really know, if you're it feels like they're just playing it by ear as they go drive by drive as well, and that's not going to help with chemistry, continuity, and knowing what they kind of want to do from an identity standpoint. So I think that's where the kind of problem is with the Saints. But Carr, he's done all right. He's done what Derek Carr does, but he's not really kind of put them over the top at all. Which is why I still think they're mixing in Taysom Hill and whatnot as well. Which again, I think just kind of shoots themselves in the foot a little bit. But I think this is all about the Bucks. If they come out and play as they have done for most parts of this season, I for one thought Baker would kind of be dead and buried by now. If you listen to things I was saying at the start of the season on the betting podcast, but like you say, if you protect him, he'll find Mike Evans and more so Chris Godwin as well in the last couple of weeks. But and then obviously just Rashad White just is volume king at the moment as well. So and the defense has continued to play well on that side. Obviously, we know about all the stars that are on there as well. So Baker Mayfield just eight interceptions on the year, which is I would have put my house on it being double digits at this point in the season. But 64% pass completion percentage as well, which is his best of career if he manages to maintain that as well. So I think from the Bucs standpoint, I think he probably feels at home there. He feels a bit settled, and that's kind of coming out in how he's playing. And he's mistake free. He's obviously he's had the odd flap, haven't they all? But I think considering what I thought they were going to be going into the season to be battling for their third straight division title. Fair play to Baker Mayfield, and got that one wrong. But I don't really see. I can't see New Orleans winning this game. Give me Tampa.
Awesome. And I'll finish the early window with the Niners looking to bounce back from their loss on Monday night with a trip to Washington. And they're probably the best team you can face to do that as well, because their defense is the worst in the league. Numerically, they've got no pass rush to disrupt Brock Purdy's rhythm as well. And, I think they've totally bought out on their head coach and potentially quarterback as well. They're literally the best team you can probably face right now. After a disappointing few weeks on offense, Sam Howell has been benched with Jacoby Brissett, who gave them a spark in both days in the second half, taking over as a starter in this one. And I think that's just Rivera trying to save his job, really, if anything. But I can see us going one of either two ways. Either the 49ers absolutely blow out the Commanders, or Washington make it an interesting affair, like they have in the second half of both of these games. Let's see what Eric Bieniemy can come up with, because I think this is a good audition for him for the head coaching job against the Niners. I'm obviously picking the Niners, but I think Bieniemy's called some good stuff for Sam Howell, and he's had a good fourth quarter with Brissett the last couple of weeks. So let's see how the Washington offense looks. Give me the Niners to win this big.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got this could be a toweling in my notes. So I think combined with the fact that Washington are absolute disaster, San Francisco coming off a disappointing defeat and kind of humiliating on a primetime island game. I think San Francisco will just come back. We'll walk into. Is it still FedEx Field? It's not FedEx Field still, is it?
I think it is FedEx Field.
Is it still FedEx Field? Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
I thought it had been changed by now. But yeah, I mean they'll just go and do whatever the hell they want there. And I think Brandon Ayuk is one of my favorite guarantees for a touchdown this week. I know he's been kind of hit or miss, especially for fantasy over the last month or so. But I think quite a lot of players for San Francisco will score a touchdown this week. So I just can't see a scenario where Washington win or score too many points, because one of my best bets on the betting pod on Thursday was San Francisco defense to score a touchdown. It's going to be something like a 42-10 or something like that.
Awesome. Okay, and then we'll go over to the late window. We'll start with our final featured game. It's a game that on paper at the start of the year looked incredibly tasty. We thought it may be the game that decides the AFC 1 seed. That turned out to be a different game this week, but it's still one that has playoff implications, of course. Neither team has panned out how we thought they would, yet they both have winning records, and they're both, the Chiefs are pretty much in the playoffs, but they're looking to secure the AFC West title, and the Bengals are on the outside looking in. The Chiefs are the 3 seed, but they've been flat on offense this year, especially since their bye week. They just aren't in the best form. Normally they're great out of a bye, but since then they've won just twice in those 6 games, and are scoring just 20.1 points per game in that span, which is one of the lowest amounts in the league, especially over 6 games. The Bengals are on the outside looking in, of course, and they really need this game because they probably have to win out to get in the postseason now, because they are 3-7 in conference and 0-5 in division. So all the tiebreakers are not in their favour whatsoever. So it's just an interesting game. This one may not have as much star power, but it's a good opportunity for both teams because the rivalry is still strong. The Chiefs need to show something on offense after a dismal showing against the Raiders at Arrowhead, and the Bengals need this one to stay alive, which means it's still going to be tasty, isn't it, Tim?
Yeah, I think so. I think the way Cincinnati have approached the season since Joe Burrow went down, they've kind of been plucky. They've been honest. Obviously, they're as it currently stands, they're unlikely to make the playoff. But if they do get a win here, it becomes a kind of a coin flip. The only problem is obviously they've got the Browns in week 18. But I think Kansas City are on the ropes, similar to Jacksonville. I know Rashee Rice has had decent showings and decent performances, production on kind of on the stat sheet, but I think considering that they're kind of considered now a defense first team as a kind of a slant. It doesn't suit them. It just feels a bit weird that's the case.
And their defense hasn't been the same defense it was at the start of the year either, and that's the thing.
No,
they've still been a top 5 defense, but they've not been. Their defense won games at the start of the year. Now the defense isn't winning games; they're just doing enough, and the offense can't win those games.
Yeah, but it just feels weird as an ethos to be a defense. You kind of think, oh, Patrick Mahomes, it's offense first, and then the defense will kind of be there as a safety net. But looking at stats today, I saw that Patrick Mahomes, although he has no one to throw to, and Travis Kelce's had an awful month. He's done hardly anything. Thank you to Taylor Swift for that. But somehow he's still managed 4,000 yards passing. I don't know where that ball's gone. I don't know who that's gone to, but he still managed to do. So it obviously shows Mahomes is still Mahomes, but the whole team isn't right, and it'd be interesting to see kind of what they do, what they shuffle in the offseason on offense as well. But Pacheco is obviously had health issues as well, and they've kind of leaned on him a little bit in some games. Cincinnati, very plucky, very honest, and I just think it'd be interesting to see how the Jamar Chase is potentially going to go in this one, which I didn't think he would be back to this one, but
he's been back in practice. He seems like he wouldn't play, and then he just turned up in practice yesterday, so it probably looks like he will play now, which is interesting. It does make add something else to it.
Yeah,
he's calling out their defense as well. He said there's no premier corner or anything, so he's confident.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'd probably take Cincinnati in this one, to be quite honest. I think, you can't just keep picking Kansas City because they're Kansas City. You got to take the team name away from how the team, the players are playing. You wouldn't be picking Kansas City even if they, even though they are. And they've had obviously the Bengals have had an extra day to prep for this one. They have a good recent record against Kansas City. There's no fear factor in Kansas City anymore this season, I don't think. And I think for Cincinnati, it'd be just a case of Zach Taylor would just say that go out and execute. You'll probably win the game. And there's a carrot there of making the playoffs and overcoming adversity, which is very cliche for the NFL and some teams and some players and blah blah blah. So, but yeah, give me the. I'd say I call it an upset. I don't know what's the handicap, 7.5. Yeah, give me plus 7.5 on Cincinnati for sure.
Awesome. It's weird. I have no idea who's going to win this one because, as you mentioned, I don't think anyone trusts the Chiefs, which just feels so weird to say, doesn't it? It's just especially from obviously they won a Super Bowl less than a year ago. Now we're saying we don't trust them. It's really weird. They've not lost too many pieces either, which makes it even weirder, really.
Yeah.
Also in this one, they're very injured. They could be without a lot of their offense. Isaiah Pacheco's still got in concussion protocol. Kadarius Toney's had a hip injury, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been out with an illness. So none of them have practiced all week. They've not been limited, so that's not good heading into today.
I'm not sure missing Kadarius Toney. I think that probably been a positive for the Chiefs offense.
Maybe, but he has those games where he just turns up there. This could be one of them. You never know. And that's the thing, really. So they're quite injured. The Bengals have had something going with Browning before their big loss to Pittsburgh last week. I've been impressed by what they were doing there, but they got blown out by Pittsburgh last week. So it's just that, and that Steelers team as well. They've not been great recently, so that's there in the back of my mind as well.
Yeah. That was a disappointing result for Cincy there. They've definitely missed a trick by losing that one. I'm going to say Norton 5 in the division. What they would have given for at least one or two of those wins.
Yeah, and I mean George Pickens absolutely killed them as well. It's super difficult to pick, but I just can't see the Chiefs losing at Arrowhead back-to-back games. That just seems just so far-fetched. So I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win this one, but I'm not confident by that. If I'm being honest. Right, okay, we'll finish off with the two games in the late window and then Sunday Night Football as well. And the sort of only other meaningful game in the late window. Actually, it's meaningful in both the AFC and the NFC wildcard race is the Steelers heading into Seattle. As we've seen what feels like 1,000 times before, we've got teams coached by Pete Carroll and Mike Tomlin, both having yet another winning season so far. But it's unlikely that both of them make it into playoffs in their respective conferences because obviously they play each other. Only one team can win this game, so it makes it very interesting. The Steelers beat the Bengals on Saturday, as we said, and they jumped above them in the standings as well, meaning that Tomlin is only one win away from another winning season. And I mean, it looked like Kenny Pickett could be back in this one because it's been limited in practice this week, but they're going to stick with Mason Rudolph for this one, which is interesting. And I don't think that win will happen for the Steelers this week. I think I trust Seattle more. They're very difficult to beat at home as well, and obviously it's at Lumen Field. Give me Seattle to win this one. But I'm interested to see what Pittsburgh team turns up because they were quite good last week.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'll take Seattle in this one as well. I think this could be like one of those. It's not like a de facto AFC North game. It's just going to be a bit of a slobber knocker. But like, say you got, the dinosaurs in Carroll and Tomlin. I think they'll be just like defense first and not want to give an inch, and then try and nick a win. I think that kind of be how the game plays out. But Steelers obviously still fighting for the winning streak of winning seasons.
They play Baltimore next week as well, so that's a that is really interesting. They may, especially the Ravens lose this game this week, they'll need to win that game to have the 1 seed next week. So it might come to an end if they lose the next 2 weeks.
Absolutely. And Mason Rudolph, I think that was just a bit of a flash in the pan last week, and kind of a lightning in the bottle. I think Mason Rudolph will struggle immensely in this one away from home in Seattle. Notoriously difficult to go to with the 12th man, and that's how I can see fumbles, interceptions, and all the rest of it. So I actually see quite a comfortable victory here for Seattle. Obviously, currently the 7th seed as well, and with the 8 and 9 seeds doing battle on Sunday Night Football, which we'll get to shortly. I think Seattle will just have too much, and let's say they do what they normally do and generally get in the playoffs and maybe play a game or two and then do it all again next season. But I think they've the offense as a whole, and I think even the defense as a whole, and obviously you've got TJ Watt on the other side, but there's a lot of players dotted around that kind of make the stitch work of how the offense and the defense is made up will be too much for Pittsburgh, and in terms of players. And Geno Smith's not exactly Patrick Mahomes, but he's he is compared to Mason Rudolph in my opinion.
Exactly. And then we'll go to an all AFC West
game of the week, baby.
In a surprising turn of events, the Chargers will not face against Russell Wilson in Denver this week. It will be Jarrett Stidham after the Broncos' late season offensive collapse has resulted in him being benched and likely released at the end of the season. So obviously it will be Easton Stick versus Jarrett Stidham, a battle of 2019 draft class QBs. And the Broncos will be without their best quarterback, best receiver, Cortland Sutton too, who's got a concussion. Again, I just don't get it. I think it might blow up in Sean Payton's face this week as well. So I'm going to pick the Chargers to win this one, and that's without Keenan Allen, that's without Josh Palmer as well. They actually looked decent against the Bills last week, and again they're about those players in that one as well. They've had an extra day to prepare as well. Just give me the Chargers to upset the Broncos here. And I'm sure the Broncos won't mind that anyway because they've got more chance of grabbing a better QB with a better draft pick anyway. But
I've gone Chargers as well. I thought I was going to be out on my island on that one, but get this straight jacket was being on order. But I think this is a game that's actually a candidate for no touchdowns to be scored. So everyone likes betting on 100 to 1 shots. No touchdowns in this game is a live contender. Chargers. You can only talk for a couple of minutes before you get to the bad stuff. But they've been disappointed due to injuries and just the circus that is the Chargers and the way they go about seemingly consistently annoying the NFL gods, and it's just not going to happen for them. The Denver defense obviously is the best kind of unit in the game out of all four. I do fancy an upset, but Easton Stick against Jarrett Stidham. What a world we live in. The whole Russell Wilson thing is just nuts, but I don't know what to say because it's like no one necessarily really cares about the game. It's just something you just kind of just smirk at or laugh at or lightheartedly laugh at because it's just how the two team seasons have gone and kind of what's transpired. But give me the Chargers. I don't. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Awesome. And we'll finish with a more meaningful game, Sunday Night Football, between, as you said, the 8 and 9 seed in the NFC, the Packers and the Vikings. They're both obviously trying to keep the playoff hopes alive, but only one team can win this game. And obviously a division game as well, so fierce rivalry there. For this one, the Vikings have reverted back to rookie quarterback Jaron Hall as they welcome the Packers. It's their 5th QB change of the season. It's remarkable that they're still in the hunt and could be at 500 after this one. Bear in mind they've changed quarterback 5 times this season. Obviously, one of them was because Kirk Cousins has been injured, but he flipped 3 guys after that. So, it's so weird. Obviously, they're both hoping that Seattle lose to Pittsburgh in this one too, to have a greater chance. But the Packers are also in the same situation as the Vikings. And they also finish the season in division next week as well. Both of them do. So you've got 2 meaningful games of both teams to take them into the new year. I haven't picked a lot this year because I've never really trusted them. but I think it's time that Joe Barry's defense has a game, because they've just been the talk of the league with how they've looked the last couple of weeks. And he has played down to opposition, but I don't know if he's going to play down to Jaron Hall level.
Yeah.
So if the Packers lose this game, then he has to be fired, surely. So yeah, give me the Packers to win this one, and I think Jordan Love will have a game or two, because the defense he's facing is Brian Flores, and Brian Flores wanted to draft Jordan Love over Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Tua Tagovailoa in 2020. So weird that he picked that callback over those three, and Jalen Hurts, of course, as well. But he's the one that he wanted the Dolphins to have. But obviously, he didn't end up in Miami. But I think Jordan Love will remind him that he wanted him in this game.
No, absolutely, yeah. And as you say, effectively a playoff game, this one, isn't it? When the loser will be essentially eliminated. I fancy the Packers as well. I don't understand why when you've got playoff. I know Nick Mullins was absolutely atrocious in the first half last week, but when you've got playoff hopes on the line, I'm not quite sure why you're going back to Jaron Hall. I know you towards the end of the season you want to kind of see what you've got in those types of players, but you either want the playoffs or you don't. And you work so hard, all year round, all these players, you're putting the ball into Jaron Hall's hand. No disrespect to Jaron Hall, but that's incorrect move in my opinion. I've been a big fan of Jordan Love. As the season's progressed, it's been interesting to watch the development with him, but also the offense as well. And it's a young offense, there's loads of young wide receivers. So most of these guys will probably stick around for a couple of years yet anyway. So Minnesota won the corresponding fixture quite convincingly back in October, but that was obviously with Kirk Cousins, and a lot has obviously happened since then. Packers have had some good wins this year, obviously some bad results as well. But I think the win against the Panthers last week, when the Panthers kind of made it close and whatnot, I think actually knowing how to win one of those win ugly kind of games or grind out a win, I think will actually give Jordan Love quite a lot of confidence. And I think despite even going in, I know it's away to Minnesota, I think that will probably give me a good stead for Love and the offense to get the win here. But yeah, again, I think it would just come down to why are Minnesota going with Jaron Hall here, and when you've got a playoff berth still there if you want it.
Do you know what's nuts as well? Jaron Hall will be Justin Jefferson's fourth quarterback of the season, and he's missed most of the game. He's missed most of the season as well. He missed 7 or 8 games. And he's had 4 quarterbacks in that time. It's just absolutely nuts.
The thing is as well, like Jair Alexander's missing because of some weird gate crashing of the coin toss last week in the Carolina game. I mean, that if you haven't seen, go and read about that. That's just absolutely nuts. But you've got Justin Jefferson there, who one of the best wide receivers in the league. No Jair Alexander at corner for the Packers, and you're deciding to put Jaron. I know Nick Mullins had 3 or 4 interceptions last week, or however many. It might have been 7, 8, 9, or 10. I don't know. He might be still throwing them, but Nick Mullins is the better quarterback, and he'll throw the ball and get Justin Jefferson the ball. Because you're not going to have any TJ Hawkinson. I think Jordan Addison is missing as well. So, I don't really understand why your Jaron Hall just seem to be limiting your upside in that offense. But Justin Jefferson must be rolling his eyes. But who knows? We might be all wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's a good note to end the podcast on. So yeah, thank you for joining me, Tim. It's been great. Only got one more of these previews to go now before the playoffs, which is just it's been a long season, but it's been a great season. I think you alluded to it earlier as well. I think it's just been so random, so unexpected. Everything's just been it's been a great season because it's been entertaining. Yes, we've had injuries, but it's just you don't know who's going to beat who week in, week out, and that's why it's been great. So yeah, thank you for joining, Tim. Obviously, we'll get you on again sometime.
Yeah, looking forward to it, and good luck to all your team. If you're watching, all your teams are still in the playoff hunt, hope they all get there, and obviously Happy New Year as well.
Yeah, I mean, as a Dolphins fan, it's literally the biggest Dolphins game in 15 years this week. So I'd be very nervous going into the new year. I can tell you that now. But yeah, that's all we've got time for this week. I've been Sam Mills. I've been the host of the Full10Yards NFL podcast, and I will see you next time on Tuesday when we break down every single game from Week 17. I'll see you then.